Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Truth Podcast. My guest today is Hope Carroll, and she is a soul relationship coach, and we're going to talk about all things relationships today, so stay tuned for that. But first, if you could hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for new Entrepreneurial Truth podcasts when they come out, and also if you could hit the like button for this video, I really would appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I really appreciate that, and we're going to start the show right now. And welcome back. We welcome in Hope Carroll. How are you doing today, Hope?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. For the audience that don't know, we've had you on the show before, but tell everybody what you do and what you're into now and how things have changed over time.
Sure. I am a soul relationship coach. I still do relationship coaching, but I've found that the truth of the matter is that all relationships that we have start with the relationship with ourselves. And so that has been my primary focus in my coaching work.
So you're trying to help people to love themselves first. Am I right about that then?
Not just love yourself, because I know there's people that will say, well, I do love myself, or it's that term, that love yourself, has become so trivialized that people get turned off to that. But not just love, but also to just value the you that you are, and also in the place that you are, because your external circumstances are not a measure of your own self-worth. And people have a hard time wrapping their minds around it because we tend to judge ourselves by our external circumstances.
Absolutely, we do. And we're very critical of ourselves. I think we're more critical of ourselves than other people are critical of us. I mean, other people can see the good in us, and we see all the flaws. We see everything that's wrong with us and look in the mirror and pick ourselves apart. And a lot of times we take a lot of that to heart. Where I'm at socially or economically, or certain things that you went through, or disabilities and stuff like that too that you have, and things that affect your life. Just it's almost like you have like a record of where you're at and where you think you should be. So how do you with your coaching, how do you bring that out in people? How do you get to that point of self-awareness in what we're talking about right now?
Well, some things you can't get to through the mind. Our mind is wonderful, and it will let us find evidence for whatever it is that we choose to believe.
That's deep.
And so I work with the 4 quadrants of our being, not just our thoughts, but our emotions and our physical presence, not just our own physicality, but our environment, everything of the physical world that we deal with, and our energetic component, because there is that energetic piece. Some people call it a spiritual piece, but it's that part of us that has that inner sense of knowing, but we can't quite pin it down in logical terms.
That makes so much sense, though. I mean, it's hard because we are very complicated beings, or we're very complicated beings. It's not like there's a one size fits all for everybody, because everybody's so individualized, based on their experiences and the traumas that they've had in their past, and the things that their worldview, their environment. There's so many things that make us up who we are as a person. So when you were doing the relationship kind of coaching type thing, Did you notice this was coming up over and over again? This not recognizing our self worth like we should. Maybe I'm putting it wrong terms, but
Um, I've found like a lot of people who might come to me, they'll place their self worth on the relationship or on the perception of that other person. Um, Especially people coming out of a relationship, breakup, separation, divorce. Um, they will try and puzzle out, why wasn't I enough? What didn't make me worthy of this person? When that's not the truth of what's going on, because just because a relationship may end does not mean that your worthiness is changed,
mm,
because our self-worth never changes. We are part of whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, the divine. We are a part of that co-creative essence, and so the experiences that we have, we co-create with other people, um, and so there's nothing per se wrong with who we are.
hmm. But don't we feel that way though? I mean, if we get into a relationship, they cheated on you, they, rejected you and said, well, basically, and there are very mean people out there, very mean individuals that are like, oh no, you were never good enough, and this person's better than you, and blah blah blah. It's
Oh,
very difficult
absolutely.
not to feel that way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's hard to transcend that uh, 3D material experience,
yeah.
the physical world experience of that. Because we're faced with that every day. How do you manage living in this physical world with the knowledge that we're more than just our body?
Mm,
That's that's the journey that we all deal with in
yeah.
every day of our lives.
That is so deep too, because with everything going on with the COVID situation, which we didn't have the last time we talked, with lockdowns and society basically changing right now, there's a lot of people that are in pain right now. There's a lot of people that are scared. They feel trapped, or they feel, so there's a lot more of the suicide rate has gone up. The basic thing of, I just can't do it anymore. How do we, I know this may not be your forte, but how do we get over, all of that stuff, all that physical stuff that's right in our face, and realize that this is just kind of the 3D manifestation of something, of energy, basically, and just
Hmm.
treat it as such?
That's when you have to go back to knowing what you know and knowing the truth about what you know and being with the energy of who you are. Because, like I said, some things you just can't process in the mind. Oh, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Um,
It's not
like,
logical.
yeah. And we all are unconditional love.
Mm,
That is the energy and truth of who each and every one of us are. And a lot of times in our managing, just trying to manage our day to day material work in the world, we forget that and we disconnect from the truth of who we are. And so sometimes just taking the time to just be present in the now with our own energy
mm-hmm.
can help us reconnect to ourselves.
Yes, something I told my kids a while back is that if you know who you are, no one can tell you any different. And I think if we maybe expand that out to the world, or the universe, not the universe, the world, the 3D world we live in, the physical world can't tell us who we are.
Very, very true. And I think that we have to, even I have to remind myself of that,
Yeah,
because that is definitely the challenge of living here.
it is. Give me some examples of and no names, obviously, you know what I'm saying, but just some examples of what people are going through in relationships and stuff like that, and some of the things that you see popping up over and over and over again in those conversations in that coaching.
Um, well,
I know, tough
I've
question.
seen uh, people who have gone through abuse,
Hmm.
though, whether emotional, verbal, sometimes physical abuse, and they will try and puzzle out why they haven't been enough, why this came to them. What did they do to deserve this?
Mm.
When it's not a matter of deserving, it's hard when you're seeing a relationship dynamic just through the three-dimensional reality. Um, what I do is I help people to understand the symbolic language
Mm.
of what's going on in any relationship dynamic, not just romantic ones.
Please explain that. Explain that the symbological language. I think that's what you
Okay,
said.
yeah, symbolic language. Well,
Symbolic language.
um, a lot of people will, you know, react in fear
Oh, okay.
when they're threatened,
Hmm.
you know, especially when it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And what it's really hard for someone to wrap their heads around, especially when they are dealing with that kind of physical level fear, is the understanding of why is that person treating you or acting that way?
Mm.
Because a person only will be aggressive when they, in fact, have some sort of fear of your own power to begin with.
Mm.
Or for whatever reason, they feel like they are not enough. And so they have to be the aggressor to prove to themselves that they have power, because that's the only way they understand how to be powerful in themselves.
Can you help those people? I mean, I know you help the abused people, but the abuser people are you know what I'm saying? Unless they're crazy or something. You know, maybe we shouldn't use that term, but you know what I mean. You know, if the person's maybe too far gone or something, maybe they can't be helped. I don't really know if that's even a thing. You know what I'm saying? What do you think?
Well, the thing is, the person has to be willing and open to see things in a different way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're not open to new learning or new understanding, then you close that channel for you, um, and you choose to have that as your experience.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it depends on the person. You typically, someone who's close to that sort of understanding isn't going to come to me.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. Makes sense. You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to open their eyes to different things, and that's another thing. Even if you can open their eyes to some, are there people that aren't willing to change? Or just not? They just can't. They can't bridge that gap. Maybe.
There's a lot of people that don't come to me, that choose not to see things this way, and not everyone is aligned to this kind of understanding.
Right. Right.
And people will come to a channel of knowledge when they're ready to receive it.
Mm, that's true. It's almost like it says the teacher will appear when the student is ready. Type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that it's a difficult thing to teach stuff that isn't that people can't see. That's tough. It's tough because our belief system is so tangible. It's so okay. Hey, this is the table, and this is the walls, and this is the studio here, you know, or whatever. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like I can't see the wind type thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've come across that with people that have come to me, and basically all they want is a partner, and it's like, it doesn't work that way. I can't just give you one. You have to understand what energy and understanding brings you to that point where you are aligned with another person in the right way.
Hmm. Do you find that there's energies that just aren't compatible?
Well, if they're not compatible, then they're not going to.
No, I know that, but I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people in relationships, and it just looks like they fight all the time or something like this. But it's like maybe their energies are not really meant for each other. Is that
Maybe,
sort of a thing, or?
yeah, but also, I believe that the universe will never, ever, ever let you miss a relationship you're meant to be in. And that relationship may be there to help you further your understanding of yourself,
Hmm.
not necessarily to be one that people will think of compatible, lifelong unity.
Hmm.
That is sometimes not always as common as we would like
Yeah,
to
it
hope.
makes sense because if this world is, well, some people think that this world's kind of a training ground, right? And so if we're trying to get to that perfect relationship, we have to have some of them that aren't perfect, that aren't good, to find out what we don't want, or to find out what the flaws are in us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because people in relationship to us are going to reflect to us what's in ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
it may not necessarily be a one-to-one ratio, like I was talking about an abusive relationship, because the person who's being abused will say, well, I didn't sign up for this. I don't act this way. But what they're not understanding is that this dynamic may be showing them what is it that they are beating themselves up at, or
Mm.
feeling such a distorted lack in themselves,
Do you
that
find?
someone is
Yeah,
being this aggressive to point this out to them.
I've noticed in some people that they seem to keep attracting the same type of person. Is that because of the energy they're putting out, or is there
Absolutely.
something else? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely about the energy of that. And the dynamics that they're choosing not to transcend. And so that's
Mm.
why
Mm-hmm.
the dynamics repeat.
So how do they get out of that cycle? I mean, it does seem to be a cycle. I mean, I know a lot of people, women too, that say, God, I always attract the wrong man. It's always the same guy, or the same type of thing all the time. Or for us men, it's the same thing. I always seem to find the same, thing that I found before that I didn't want. In the end, at first it's always great, but as we know.
Right, right. Well, you know what they say, if you've always do what you always done, you always get what you always got.
That's true.
So when you change your energy, when you change what you do, what you change how you see yourself, how you respond to other people, because that is our ultimate power, your
Right.
response,
Right. So
because
how do
that
so
gives,
you
yeah,
help them people you help people to change their energy then in some ways, or to
absolutely.
realize it for themselves.
Well, if you think about it, if you change, two or more of those four aspects of ourselves, you're going to change the energy. If you change your thoughts, if you change your feelings, that's going to change what you do, which is in turn going to change your energy. If you
Mm.
change what you do and you change what you think, that's going to change how you feel, and that's also going to change your energy.
So you said you deal more now with people, more with the energy and the stuff than the relationship aspect. So do you see couples now, or do you just see individuals?
Just I've always just seen individuals,
Oh, okay,
because
okay.
yeah, because that is the heart of the matter. Looking at your relationship with yourself. If you want to change your dynamic with someone else, it still starts with your relationship with you, because that's ultimately what you have control over.
Mm. That is the truth. That is absolutely the truth. The only person you can change is yourself. And so when you're looking at stuff like this, I mean, energetic changes will either help the relationship because you're being different, or it will attract a new person, or something in that same energy that you're in. I do believe that energies do attract each other. I really do. I believe in that. So I think there's something there. Do you think the same thing? Because I always say opposites attract, and I'm not really sure I buy that.
I think that there has to be at some level of resonance
Mm-hmm.
for people to co-create a relationship experience, whether it be a work dynamic, whether it be um, friends, whether it be a romantic partner.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think there has to be some sort of common energy. I do. I mean, common ground, I guess, would be another word for it, but it's more like the person, and I'm talking about love relationships now, where it's like if you find someone and they're a real negative energy and you're real positive energy, you won't be attracted to that person. It doesn't really matter, you know. The
Right.
look part won't matter. It'll just be you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yet some people come to that, and it may be that the person's agendas are different
Mm.
than just a romantic relationship.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So the family dynamic plays into this too, and there's a lot of things that I see in a lot of families where there's a lot of not getting along, and mothers and children and fathers and kids and siblings and stuff like this. I think it's anybody you stay with for a long period of time is going to see the ugly side of you. I kind of think that's what happens in those situations. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the longer you're exposed to someone, the more you're going to see that person.
Yeah.
And that's the real test is, am I willing to accept the person where they're at for who they are, you know,
Right.
for all this time? That doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean that you become a doormat, you know.
No.
You can accept who they are, but not necessarily choose to accept the behavior that they give you.
Accept the person, but don't allow them to change you.
Well, no one can change you unless you allow them to.
Well, I think that's true to a point. I mean, I think that there's people that have very strong personalities and very strong influence, and it does take a lot to resist that. You know what I mean? So I think there is parts that are kind of it's always your choice, and I see that. But there's situations where it's your choice, but yet it really isn't. You know what I mean? It's your
Well,
choice not to wear a mask in a store, but they're going to tell you to leave the store. You know?
yeah, I mean that we all have to live under, you know, these common rules
Hmm.
of how the game is played here on Earth.
Yes. Hmm. So, what services do you offer now, and how can people get a hold of you? Because I want to get that out there at some point, so I might as well do it right now.
Sure. Um, I have a couple of online courses that I
Nice.
offer through the Podia platform, um, and that's has separate links where you can. They're self-study courses where
What
you
are they
can just.
about? I mean, what do they help you with?
Um, well, one of them is a master class that I have for people who are empaths, and it's called From Empath to Empathic Badass. And it's
Nice.
about,
Nice.
yeah, it's about understanding and using your ability to sense other people, sense their energy. And there are all different spectrums of empathic abilities and how to manage that, so that way you're not overwhelmed.
Because it can be
Um,
rough. It
yeah,
really can
by
be.
taking on other people's energies, finding that balance.
Can you
Um,
describe for some people that don't know what empath is or
uh,
empathic
uh,
abilities?
common common definition of an empath is someone who not just can empathize with someone, but actually physically feels the emotions that another person is feeling and experiencing. And that can be confusing for someone who has started to take on this ability and doesn't know what that is, because
Exactly.
then you're feeling these emotions and then you're like, where's this coming from? um,
Why am I sad all of a sudden, right? You know, that type of
right,
thing.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's a really good indicator of understanding when an energy is yours and when it's not yours, because when there's no rational or logical reason behind the sensations that you're feeling, that means it's usually not your energy that you're sensing.
Hmm. That makes sense. And what was the other course about?
The magic mirror, that is
Ooh.
a five part course that is I offered live, that I put on self study for people to understand, or if they're experiencing just having gone through a breakup, separation, or divorce,
Mm.
the
Very painful.
process of from going from leaving a relationship to standing in your personal power, understanding the sovereignty of who you are,
Mm.
to also embodying and understanding and knowing the unconditional love that you are. And that is what you feel like you were missing in a relationship, because you felt like it was something external to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we do feel that way. We do feel crushed, you know, rejected and in pain. And I remember when I went through my divorce, I was really, really hard. I had such a hard time with that. I think it was the worst pain I've ever felt. And I've been through a lot of pain, you know, physical. But yeah, I think that was probably the worst I was ever emotionally in that state. It was really hard. It was very difficult to get through. And I don't think if I had the friends that I had at the time and the people that were in my life at the time, I don't know if I'd have made it. Just being honest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's the emotional challenges that we go through can be the most difficult, because that's that's what fuels us. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's what
Mm-hmm.
energizes us. That's what motivates a lot of what we do. It's our passion
See,
for what
that's
we
what
do.
you fit this so well because your name is Hope.
Thank you. And I try to live up to
You
it.
do too. Um, I want you to just talk to the people out there and from your heart, just tell people who you are and kind of, you know what I'm saying? I know you've told people what you do, but tell people kind of who you are and why they would want to work with you.
Well, I I am, as I said, a soul relationship coach. And the reason why I say I'm a soul relationship coach, because I believe that that intimate relationship with our own soul self is so critical to understanding the true nature of the power that we have to co-create what we want, in our lives. A lot of us just don't believe that we can have what we want, that it's possible, because what we look at is the discrepancy, the distance between where we are and what we dream about,
Hmm.
um,
So powerful.
and leave it at that, you know. But if you don't take those steps toward it, then yeah, that gap's going to always be there.
Hmm.
And so I encourage anybody that if there's something that you truly feel passionate about, that you want to achieve, break it down into the steps to get there, and know that if you can dream it, you can do it, as Walt
Hmm.
Disney has said.
Yep,
um,
he did. You know, here's a question that I had, and I actually brought this up in a conversation with a friend of mine just 2 days ago. And so I know a lot of people believe in law of attraction. I don't know if that's something that you're kind of talking about here, or I have felt like that the negative is so much more powerful than the positive. You know, my friend was like, yeah, well, we always think of the bad stuff because, you know, that's what we think about. And I said, I think that's because that's what we experience for the most part. You know, as children, I don't think we see it as bad as we see it as we start growing up and things start to happen to us. So it's always been hard for me to like break free of that because the experiences have been, you know, not so good. You know, we get the majority of negative and the small doses of positive. At least that's what I've experienced. And so I think that a lot of people think that that only works in the negative realm because they don't see it working positively for them. What would you say to that? Because I want the answer myself.
Sure. Well, there's a science behind that, actually, because that's our survival instinct kicking in. You know, as a species, you know, evolving, we had to look for the dangers or else we'd be wiped out.
Right.
And so we had to be constantly alert for that. And so that's our primal instinct, is for safety and security. And so that's why our focus is going to be on what's going to be risky, what's going to kick us out of our security or safety, whatever safety and security we may have.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and the less secure that we may feel, then the more heightened that alertness is going to be for us.
And so we're living in a constant state of fear. And so fear is negative, so therefore most of the stuff that happens to us is probably going to be negative because that's what we're looking for.
Fear is the challenge for us to overcome that, to know that that's an illusion, because we co-create everything in our lives.
What do you mean by co-create? No, I'm sorry, I keep going on and on, but you're interesting and I want to get all this out.
Well, you know, we don't have control over another person's actions, thoughts, feelings, or experiences.
Right.
And that is why I say co-create, because especially in relationship with someone,
oh, okay. I thought you meant co-create with someone else, or like a power or energy, or you know, that.
Well, it's a matter of perspective. You know, some people will say that they're, you know, the higher power that we are experiencing is outside of ourselves, and so we're co-creating with that.
Yes, yes, that's kind of where I thought you were going. But
there's that, but also, yeah, the other perspective is, but if we are also a part of that same energy, then we are co-creating our experience with everyone else who also has that same power of the creator, God, source energy, whatever you want to call it.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm still going back to that primal thing that you were talking about, because yeah, we always look for the stuff that's going to get us, because the other stuff, well, that's good stuff. We don't need to worry about that. So in essence, we're kind of creating a negative spin on a lot of things just to find, you know, the hidden animal around the corner or whatever, you know, whatever's going to eat us or something, you know, in caveman days.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. You gave me a lot to think about. You really did. That was amazing. Thank you for that. People could grab a hold of that. Oh my gosh, it would change people's lives. It really would. Yeah, just that little bit of information. Holy cow. Man, it has been a good show. It really has, because you've given us a lot of things to think about, a lot of things that wait, I'm probably going to be thinking about this all night, more than likely. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to get out to the people before we close the show?
Well, if people want to contact me and they're not on Facebook, because I am on Facebook, my name Hope Carroll, I'm out there, but you're welcome to email me at hope.carroll07@gmail.com.
You spell the Carroll?
It's HOPE.CARROLL07.
There you go. Some people spell it CIRROL.
Right. Yeah, it's 2 R's and 2 L's.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I really appreciate you, Hope. I really appreciate you being here and giving us hope for our relationships, for ourselves, and for our relationships with ourselves. And so with that, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. Like the video. If you love the content here, let us know in the comments below, and get a hold of Hope at say your email once again.
Oh, it's Hope, HOPE dot CARROLL 07
Okay, and appreciate you being here, and thank you everybody for tuning in, and you guys all have a wonderful day.